Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 1 of Mayhem and Masterplans. And today it's complete mayhem. We had technical issues across the globe. Let's say new government in Germany about to happen, and we already have internet outages. With the government shutdown in the US, internet not working, nothing working. So like it was crazy. But I think that's the mayhem you have when you work in a tech company. But finally
Spain
we
is
made
still
it.
here.
Spain is still Spain, the
Yeah,
only place still working.
I was just going to say the CTO's office, the only place that was working.
Yeah, exactly. The rest not working.
I think that speaks
Yeah.
more to our level of competency than to anyway.
Who knows?
Welcome.
Who knows?
Welcome. How is everybody doing? How are you feeling?
6.5 hours later.
Doing good, I would say. Yeah.
3 weeks later.
So
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Am I feeling good? Am I feeling great? Am I enjoying the fact that it's
such a German approach.
I'm feeling not
I know.
bad, I have to say.
not bad.
is
Yeah,
very good.
exactly.
Not
bad
I
is
don't know what
extremely German.
kind of comedian said that. If somebody asks you how you're doing, there's only 2 acceptable answers: good and all right. or fine. Good and fine. And the rest, your personal problems, like I have to think about how I'm feeling.
Mhm.
It's a very
Nobody
you
wants to
problem.
know.
Yeah, and it's a very you
Exactly.
problem. Nobody cares. So elections in Germany are over.
Happy with the results?
I don't know.
I would say so. So the bad outcome was known before, I would say. Right from the polls, right? So so it was pretty much what the poll says, right?
Yeah.
So, and I would say that is something you where I was mentally prepared for. But also it was also then in the end the best outcome what I have or what I could see from the polls. So I would say I'm okay with the election. Yeah.
I think it really depends on the narrative. I think so we had the participation. What is it like in the election was the highest since the
unification, the highest since unification, 84%.
84%. So it's crazy. So that's a good
mind-blowing.
sign. It's a good sign that many people went to vote. But none of the center, mid-left, mid-right parties gained through that, right? So it was the far left that gained, and of course the far right was already kind of like winning. A few things that like it always depends on the narrative.
But that also makes sense, right? So if you think about the people who are usually turned off by elections or choose not to go at all because, I don't know, politics isn't for them, they tend to be, if they then decide to vote, they tend to be more on the fringes of it. So it makes sense that a higher participation benefits the left and the right more so than the center.
Yeah,
because the center, by definition, would show up to the polls anyway.
Okay. And then there's a few. So one thing that when it comes to narrative is something where people are very upset now and say like every 5th person in Germany voted for the far right, which is really bad, 20%. But then if you turn it around and say like, hey, the good thing is 80% did not like the far right, and only 1 in 5 people. It's if you would say like the chances of you winning are 20%, you would never play that game. So I think we're making the numbers bigger, so you're kind of like playing into the narrative that they were very successful. And then if you drill down a bit more, it's showing something interesting as well. Across Western Germany, the highest that they reached were like 10 to 11%. On average, they were like 8 to 7%, so small. But then, of course, a higher percentage in the former, German East, or the German East, formerly formerly known as, and I think that is a overall structural issue that has that we haven't tackled, that is still people feel left out, people feel left behind, all that. So it's something that gives me hope that you can change that over a course of history when you start
Yeah.
investing into, like, not just by giving money, but really investing into
Yeah.
infrastructure, really investing into the economic growth of that region,
Participation
participation, all
Germany.
that. So I
It's
think
also,
there's
I think the pattern we have seen the pattern before, not with the far right, but with the far left as well. So there was a far left party which was mainly elected in or voted in East Germany, and now this time it's a different party. But I think it's still the pattern which we see from time to time in East Germany. When times get a bit tough and difficult, they tend to to vote more drastically than the rest of Germany.
Absolutely, like in most other Western societies, right? The same is true here in the U.S. as well. But in all honesty, though, so when you just said that, when we start investing in those areas or that kind of infrastructure, I was just wondering, okay, it's been 35 years since German unification. So when are we going to start investing?
Oh,
Is
you
it
still
going to be
have,
this year?
but it's
Yeah,
like where Germany was really good in kind of like taking time to reflect on the time of World War II and what happened with Nazi Germany and everything, and kind of like working through that. We did a very, very bad job at kind of like reworking what happened after the Cold War. So when Germany was unified again.
Mhm.
So it was like, that's the East. They did it all bad. It's wrong. They lost. So it's the West. And now you could be very thankful that you now get McDonald's and Coca-Cola and all the benefits of the West. And they felt like, and then you had to close with the Deutsche Treuhand. They closed down so many factories, and it was. I think you don't realize what you did to that society that felt really like, hey, like, is it like that you kind of showed them everything you did was wrong, and now like we have like the kindergarten system, we kind of took that over, and a lot of things like the engineering jobs that they had, women in the workplace, like, so they were a lot of like progressive. There were many progressive things happening in that, and it was, and we just like bulldoze all over that. It was all run by Western media now, so
Yeah.
and that part didn't really go that well to kind of like invest in that. One positive thing is, and I'm really excited about that. So in 2 weeks, mid-March, I'm going to a podcast event that a few people created, and it's going to be exciting. It's called Leipzig Lauscht. So Leipzig, the city, listens, and it's a podcast event with like live podcasts and panels, and I got invited to attend, and I'm excited for that. So I think there should be a lot more things happening where you drive people to participate, and bring, make active decisions on saying like, hey, you know what? Let's do the next event in Dresden because it's a beautiful city, and get people there, and really like get structural change, like get people to build factories. The thing, uh, now I'm quite happy that we didn't do the gigafactory with Elon Musk, but you know get investment plans going for like production sites and logistics centers
Yeah.
and whatnot, like not all in Western Germany. Make people excited to move their business there. I think that those are kind of things that need to happen. But yeah, so overall, I don't know. It's interesting that you see that you need change in the mainstream parties. Christian Lindner from FDP left, which is good for that party, I think. The SPD, the Social Democrats, they need a restart, which is going to be very difficult because they're going to be
Difficult.
most likely the junior party in the coalition. To reinvent themselves is going to be very, very difficult. It's much easier to do that in the opposition. So the Green Party might have the chance to do that, to kind of like recalibrate. And then even though Friedrich Merz will probably be the new chancellor, and you could see it in his face, like he had massive balls that day. So he was very excited about
although he was way behind
exactly. So
the expectation, right?
way behind
That's really
expectations.
strange.
Second worst
But he
result.
was really.
Yeah,
It was. I think it was a lifelong dream for him.
Yeah.
Become.
Oh yeah,
reality
absolutely. You could
yesterday.
absolutely tell.
And it was the number. Doesn't matter for him. It was just now I'm a chancellor.
It's so bad.
Interesting
it's so
question,
bad,
though.
right?
Is that going to be a good motivator for him to actually perform well? Right. So if it was this personal hill to climb, if it was this personal adventure that he wanted to go on, if he wanted to, get the fame and glory of winning and being chancellor, now he's got it. So is he actually then going to be good in the day to day? Is he going to be able to perform in that position and role?
So I was really thinking about vote for him or for his party, but then I changed my mind because I think he's good in I would say operating or in making decisions. Let's say in making decisions, but I think he's pretty bad in being an communicator, a team player. Politician, right? Where you have to sell your ideas and evolving more than just one or two of your peers. And I think he's missing the main aspect of a good chancellor.
I think he's. I think let's face it, and this is something where it kind of breaks over into business, right? We all talk about leadership, and we love to kind of point towards great leaders and people. You have to realize that a leader is not something that you can choose to be. You become a leader when others choose to follow you. And if you don't get others to follow you, you're by definition not a leader. There's no way around it.
And I think
letting that sink in is something that, let's say, many people who proclaim themselves leaders have never even attempted, right?
And that is something that you see for Friedrich Merz. His popularity is really low. So he is people voted for the party despite him being there, not because he was there. And it's the same for the Social Democrats with Olaf Scholz, the former chancellor. It's the same thing. So his popularity numbers were so super low, and then it's and then you're not a great leader by making the decision of I'm running anyway. It's like what kind of ego-driven, egomaniac do you have to be to not see people don't want you there? And then what kind of terrible environment do you have that people don't tell you, you know what, this might be a bad choice, you might build a better legacy in stepping down and making room, and people will then probably like you even more by doing that. Angela Merkel,
exactly true.
They like her now because she said, no, I'm done. I'm finished. I'm leaving. I stayed in because Trump came in. I wanted to finish. So I did my duty and stayed in longer to have a strong Europe. But I'm going to be done once he's gone. And she did. So she was very true to her word. And people now still see her as this great chancellor because they didn't see her as that when she started. But when, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? And Olaf Scholz finished very badly. So I'm not judging Friedrich Merz now. He's off to a bad start, I would say, as a person and as the way he kind of came into the office. But I'm going to judge him by the way he leaves the office.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a good approach.
So,
I think, in terms of, if you look at it again, more from a business perspective, what especially the when I was looking at the German elections, what most parties don't realize is that their product is not ideas and the party, but their products are individuals. They're the people is who get elected, and if you don't realize that, then you end up with what you just said, with decisions like, for example, putting Scholz up front, or letting him stay up front, or letting him decide that he's going to run again, or whatever the actual scenario there was. But somebody, decided for themselves or within a group that that is the right kind of product, the right kind of face to put out there. When in reality, a little bit of, let's call it user research, would have revealed that they have much stronger products in their lineup, in their catalog, right? There was an interesting poll that was conducted about who would be a good chancellor, independent of party or whatnot, and another SPD politician scored really highly, higher than anybody else,
Yeah.
which is Pistorius, the previous defense minister, or just up until now defense minister, right? And why ever that is the case, but he clearly came across to a majority of the population as a leader, as the right kind of person who can, handle these problems that are being faced by the country right now. And, his shop, his company, the SPD, completely ignored that, right?
Yeah,
they didn't
I'm not
really
sure. I think they
put him out
discussed
there.
it, and I don't know, but I also can see that it was quite surprising for Pistorius as well, having a chance being a chancellor, because he's known in Germany and in whole Germany. So I know him since he is he's our minister of what is it, military or defense? Defense, yeah.
Yeah,
defense.
I didn't know him before either.
Huh?
I didn't know him before either. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think he is so I can see that he said, okay, maybe it's for now. It was so discussion was 4 months ago. Yeah, last year.
Again,
end of
you're
last
talking
year.
operationally about what is ultimately a strategic bad decision that they made. Right?
But no, it might not be, because I remember it could also be the strategic, very forward-thinking decision of saying, like, we're gonna have a bad time now. We're not gonna win the popular vote. Why put in a new candidate as chancellor that might lose by 10, like by 1 or 2%, and then he's lost? So let's kind of like run with the same guy that kind of like is still like the face of the Ampel coalition, or like what the traffic light coalition, as you call it. Like, what, he's still the face of it. We're gonna run him. He probably will lose. We will lose anyway, and then we're gonna work on finding a new position. And then in 4 years, we have built him up, because he's gonna be, now he will be the leader within the junior partner in that party. He's gonna probably get a very good ministry to run. And then, from that position, like out of his position of strength, will be the new candidate as chancellor in 4 years. Could
I
be
also
the
believe in
strategic
that
decision.
theory. I also believe in that theory. Definitely.
So, sometimes it's like it's so they playing chess, not checkers, right?
Yeah,
that's why I'm happy.
I know what you mean,
like,
but
generally for like, and we did that, like on the local government thing. We did that where we said, like, okay, let's run that guy as a counter candidate for a mayor's position, not a young challenger, because we know we're not going to win, but we're going to offer people an alternative. And if he's not winning, then we haven't killed off the new guy in that race. So we did that, like, on a local level before, and that worked out really well as well. But yeah. Otherwise, like, I want to
enough with the politics.
Enough with the politics, exactly. I want to move over a bit to podcasting, maybe, or like and two things. So one is politics, and Simon mentioned it in the previous failed recording that we did. Netflix is announced something around like podcasts. Not clear how and when they're gonna launch it. I think it's a good move on their part, especially when it comes to video podcasts, to invest into that. In my opinion, one thing that could be where podcasts, like the medium, needs to watch out is, you don't want to be the next scripted reality thing, right? So, when TV productions tried to make it more like cheaper and cheaper, and then they did scripted reality, which was super cheap and super shit, and now and then it kind of like killed off your medium in the end because it was all garbage. Podcasts need to watch out to be like an even cheaper version of a TV production, where it's going to be like inflation on production for like everybody's going to like now. I think with video podcasts and Netflix investing, when people 2 years or 4 years ago said everybody's having a podcast, I think we're going to see that now, and that will not
Peak
increase.
podcast.
Sorry,
It's good that we start our podcast on peak podcast.
it's not happening yet, but I think, but with everything, TV didn't die off. When linear TV died off, it didn't die off. It's still the golden age for TV series and everything. So
Look,
podcasting won't die off. It will.
If you produce interesting content, if you have good
Yeah,
conversations,
exactly.
if you have something to say, if you have funny characters, or entertaining or smart or informative shows, it'll be great, right? And if production costs come down, that'll allow so many more people to try it out, to give it a shot, to show us what they've got. I like that. I really do.
And
the fact that also lower production cost kind of triggers people to just create more and more slop, be it actual AI slop or just human created slop. That's not great. And somebody needs to wade through that and filter and make sense of that. I mean, in all honesty, Netflix is already amazingly bad at suggesting the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
They have all this information and all this data, supposedly, and yet they still offer me, weeks and months of crap that I don't want to watch.
But I think they wrote themselves as the guys with the best recommendation engine, right? I think so. Back then, when I study computer science, there was all about the recommendation engine of Netflix.
I know those stories, and I think the interesting thing is to really ask themselves of how do you measure that? Because let's take my just personal example. I look at Netflix, I often get recommendations that really have me scratching my head and that I'm not happy with, that are just kind of the lowest level of what I might find acceptable if I'm really, really bored. And I know they have better stuff, and I know they have interesting things, but they're not recommending it to me. Now, as long as their KPI is measured not in my happiness and satisfaction with their result, but only in how many hours I spend with their app open or with something streaming, then of course they're going to give me something that is kind of an easy watch. And even though I might be annoyed and I might be turned off, I'm clearly not turned off enough to close the app, right? But I'm not happy going there. I'm not actually satisfied with what they're offering me. And I think that's actually that's a real big problem, that a lot of these kind of KPI and numeric driven decisions in large operations, anything that, whenever your product team talks about scaling and about pointing to analytics, it also means let's absolve ourselves of making actually informed qualitative decisions that we might have to explain. And I struggle with that sometimes, because the results are often, you have to mix in both, is what I'm getting at, right? Sure, numbers don't lie. It is true. But it is also something where you're not catching lack of satisfaction early on, because people are very slow in making decisions. So, for example, I'm still paying my New York Times subscription, even though I'm really not happy with them anymore. I'm still paying my Netflix subscription, even though I'm only moderately happy with them. And, I am on the verge of dropping a number of these things because frankly, they're just annoying me. Peacock is another $12.99 subscription.
You have
That
Peacock.
is, yeah, but it's constantly blasting ads in my face, and I really don't like them, and they're fucking annoying. So,
So
Yeah,
Netflix
I
should then. I have an idea how to fix that.
yes, please.
Netflix has to display every 5 to 10 minutes in each series. Are you still satisfied with the content? Yes or no? Right? And you have to pay yes
Every
or no.
10 minutes.
yeah, that's gonna help. That's gonna help.
People are gonna like kill off that product. Like, like
But it
it's
leads to
kinda
better
like,
decisions. It leads to better decisions
no,
after the
that-
whole
like what I don't understand is like, and it's so funny because I do have that experience a lot. I go into Netflix and then I don't watch anything because I don't find anything.
Yeah.
I like even like I watch a lot of stand-up comedy on Netflix. So they like in my opinion, they don't have enough Netflix specials. So they should even produce more or get licenses for the cheaper ones. Like because there's so many people that that release comedy specials on YouTube.
Mhm.
So when it comes to recommendation engine and accessibility to content that caters to my need, I'm gravitating a lot more to YouTube because there's so much more like stand-up comedy, those comedy shows, German ones, some interesting like a lot of comedy stuff. I go for YouTube. Like the Hot
Yeah.
Ones show is on there, so YouTube got greatly produced like or amazing content on the platform. So I see myself spending a lot of time on
Yeah.
YouTube because they have great formats, and then they also have a much better recommendation engine from new stuff to also stuff that I generally watch. So I open like when you swipe up on the video, I watch a lot of like clips like Closer Look from Seth Meyers and that stuff. So I watch something else, I swipe up, and it will display, hey, here's the new Closer Look. So I'm like, oh yeah, amazing. So one of the best video
Yeah.
recommendation engines, I think, is on YouTube. That they are running a very, very good job on that. Like
It would be
recommendation
interesting why
engines,
it is
Spotify
case.
is shit, and like Spotify recommendation engine is shit because they push the content they want to show you that they can monetize. It's the same with Netflix, and YouTube doesn't care what they recommend you, right? Because they monetize everything in the same way. So they don't spend like YouTube doesn't spend money on it. So they can recommend what's good for you, not for them. So,
Exactly. And I think that you're hitting it on the head. That's exactly the point. Once you lose sight of why your customer is happy with your product, why your customer should choose your product, once you start optimizing for whatever the internal number is, that's, I don't know, the driver of the quarter, your customers are going to feel it. And your users eventually will become less happy with your offering.
and
It'll take a while, but it's not a smart choice.
and that would bring me to the idea of if you get like I think if you're building a product today that would be an alternative to Spotify, would be user generated content, right? Where you're monetizing the platform and not the content, right? Where you can say like, hey, we're opening up a platform where you like Patreon, for example. Patreon works because it's user generated and they make money, and Patreon is taking a bit off that, right? So Patreon as a subscription platform works really well for artists. And if you now but it's not like a mainstream platform, but if you would think of Universal or everybody, put your content on the platform, and we're trying to figure out a model where where we get a share of your monetization, but you make the most revenue. They would look at creating better content because then you would gravitate to what is the stuff that you like most and get more recommendations of the stuff you like, and then you can work with subscription into that, and so I think there's still potential to optimize that. I think that's also a reason why user content generation platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Twitch work really well, because it's content that comes out of that audience, right? And not like
Exactly.
Netflix has to do
Exactly.
polling and get a group of people to ask what would you be interested in, and then create something. It takes a year, and then people might have moved on and be like, yeah, we don't care about chess that much anymore.
Yeah, we wanted that last year. Yeah, exactly.
So you don't have to do that, right?
Something for us to explore next time.
Exactly. But it's a lot of fun. I wanted to talk to you about movies as well. Because I watched, is it in English, is it The Patriot or Patriot, the movie
Was Mel Gibson?
with Mel Gibson?
I think
Really?
it's the, but
You mean?
I watched it. Yeah. Is it called Patriot or The Patriot? I don't know. In Germany, it's called Der Patriot. So I don't know. Yeah. So whichever.
yeah.
I think it's a great movie by itself. Great storytelling. I think it's a very, very good movie. And then I realized two things. Those kind of movies, and I talked to you about it, like those kind of like historic movies, like it's already like, think about it. It's like from 2000 or 1999 or something like that, or 1995, whichever. It's 2.5 hours long. So it was kind of like this epic movie back then. Now every movie is that long, but back then, and it's a good movie. It's a real story that they tell over time, right? And you don't have those kind of like movies anymore, I feel like. That feel in that kind of way. Also, like historic movies where you go back to like, when was the last time you've seen like a movie about like the Middle Ages, or with like Braveheart, or like where it's like 18 something, 17 something, like big war scenes, big like fighting scenes, like that feel really.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think you're right. I think you're right.
And then and in
but
that
these things also come in waves. I mean, there's
hopefully they come back. I want to see more like epic battles in like kind of like the Lord of the Rings kind of style, right? That was kind of like one of the last ones we've seen that. And I want to see that again. And then the second
thought Mel
realization
Gibson is cancelled.
No, he's back. He's back now. He's back.
He's back. Okay.
A little bit. He's
separate conversation.
Separate conversation. And then the second thing I realized,
we got to wrap it up.
Ledger. Yes. Second thing I want to finish. Heath Ledger is playing a lot of like historic movies back then. So he was like in a lot of those movies. Check that out. Yes, we wrap it up. Final thought. Last song you listened to.
I think same playlist as last time. Find a Way, Dusty Kadinsky. Lo-fi boom bap vibes 2025.
Andreas?
My last song that I listened to is actually by the band I'm rapping today, Aetherium, and it's TMHC. A thank you ode to their fan club. Pretty cool.
Very good, very good. My last song that I listened to is Don't You Miss by Redman from his latest album, Muddy Waters 2. It's a great homage to like 90s rap, and it's a great song. So yeah, that's my last song. So hey everybody, that was a quick run through everything. We start with Mayhem. We kind of build a master plan for a new user-generated podcast platform, maybe, or music platforms. I think we had a good mix. Thank you guys. Have a good week.